Is this why you asked to do the Turtles? Did you see this in the background?
No, but that's awesome though. You're a big Turtle fan. On the new animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that's coming out. I don't know if you saw the preview for that, but April O'Neil is now a fat black woman.
Yes, that's right. The whole woke culture is real popular now.
It's almost like they know that they're going to get a reaction from that, especially April I wouldn't say is necessarily like a beloved character, but it's a character that's somewhat iconic and very closely tied with the Ninja Turtles. I think they do that sort of thing because it gets a little bit of the buzz going. Negative buzz, positive buzz. It's buzz.
That's right. And I think that's what, but the funny thing is like even what was the most, of course it's, what was it, Pixar
the Lightyear movie.
Yeah. I mean, you remember that they actually got bad results for that. Really bad.
It was a flop at the box office. A lot of people are getting sick of that sort of thing, especially if it's in a family film, like something that's aimed at kids or a younger audience.
Right. We didn't forget about you.
Oh,
hey, Diazo.
Not that you're not noticeable. I just, it was just,
what's up?
Okay, we have allotted 3 to 5 minutes of cute flirtation. Can we open our packs already?
Maybe it's in your blood.
Ooh, is this him? Sup? I'm Ethan's dad, Searcher. You must be Diazo. He talks about you all the time.
Not all the time.
Hey, Diazo seems cool. Remember my first crush?
Why are you still
She had braces.
Let me see how I'm going to word this properly here to be politically correct.
I'm also going to respect you, so I'm sure you've seen where I do a lot of street preaching and stuff. God's really dealt with me on a lot of things, and so I'm a lot more honorable and respectful of people. So I get all that. I'm not going to press anything that I may think in my mind as well. So I'm going to go along with who I'm working with. So
it would be similar to the days when you and I were in a metal band, or you were in the punk band. I was in the metal band. It would be similar to a preacher like approaching us and being like, "You sissy boys wearing your tight pants and your long hair. You need to get a haircut and pray that God's not going to send you to hell." You gotta.
That's right, Sure, you got to know your audience for one thing.
Also, it doesn't help these days that everyone is so easily offended at everything.
Everything.
But here's the thing, okay? Whether or not you disagree with gay marriage or gay people on screen in television, movies, whatever, I think that most all Americans at least can agree that has no place in a children's movie.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different when you're talking about a Marvel movie, although not much different because they're still ultimately aimed at families. But when you're talking about an animated feature for kids, 12 and under, that's going a little too far, I think, with your political agendas at the end of the day.
Most people that are into comics or even like video games and stuff like that, which they pretty much coincide with each other, But the thing is I don't think people are trying to, regardless of what it is, I don't think people are wanting a political agenda pushed upon them, regardless, adult or young. It's one thing to have something because this is, the world we live. There's people like this that believe this, but it's another thing when it's a clear push. I believe in inclusivity as in like we're all created equally, right? And so I don't see any, like, I have no issue. You're talking about the race thing, like. I have no issue with all this. It's whenever it could be on the other side too. Well, what side is whenever you're pushing an agenda, I say just stick with characters who they are. What people know. Anybody who's watching films, yes, you're going to have a lot of people that are just watching films watch it, but there's a reason. I mean, it's for comics, right? So aren't you wanting to also appeal to, at least in some way, throw a bone towards the person who's a fan? I mean, that's what I would think.
Yeah, as far as the race swapping goes, I think it's interesting. And either way, it's always a hot topic and something that audiences argue about. But when it comes to the political agendas, yes, 100%. The same way I would want to see a film with, an agenda against global warming or for global warming necessarily. Like I don't want to be preached at in the theater, about whatever political spectrum you're on.
You've got to do better, Senator.
Yeah. I just want to be entertained.
Absolutely. Isn't that what it is? Isn't it?
It's kind of escapism, right? At its finest.
So did you watch the most, obviously there's a new animated Turtles, but did you watch the CGI, not the rubber suit Turtles, but the new one that just came out, how recent was that? Like, was that 2 years ago or was it last year?
The live action.
Yeah, the live action, but they're CGI,
Yeah, I did. I really enjoyed the first one that came out, and then the second one to me took a real deep dive as far as quality and just overall production. They were both done by Transformers guy. Can't think of his name right now. Michael Bay. You could really see that in the style, how things were stylistically. Megan Fox was, of course, April O'Neil in those films because Michael Bay loves Megan Fox. But yeah, they were fun. They were okay.
Like I said, I enjoyed it. I still, when I'm thinking of Turtles, I'm thinking of Cowabunga. That's what I'm thinking of. So
yeah,
I mean, it's cool. I mean, it gives it that, I guess, the street vibe there, in New York or whatever. So you kind of get that. But I don't know. I personally, I'm more of the old school guy.
Well, we're older guys, so we grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, or we grew up in the early 90s. This film, when we talk about the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that came out in 1990, this film has nostalgia written all over it for me, because there's a select few of films that I grew up watching a lot as a kid. It was the original Superman films with Christopher Reeve, the original Batman films with Michael Keaton, and then also these Ninja Turtle movies. I love these Ninja Turtle movies.
Absolutely. Especially the first one. I like the second one too. Were you a big fan of the third one? The one that went with Turtles in Time, the game, it kind of went.
Yeah, it doesn't hold up as well as the others, I don't think. But when I was a kid, I had all three of these films on VHS, so I used to watch them all the time.
Too bad you don't still have them. Some of those VHSs are worth some money now.
I know, right? The reseller guy. Yeah, I got you salivating there.
I think, of course, if it's sealed, it's crazy what people will pay for this stuff. The first one was definitely my favorite. Whenever you asked me, I was like, man, I haven't watched that in years. And I was thinking about it, so I just went and kind of refreshed my memory and went down memory lane and brought up a lot of memories, man. It was pretty cool just looking at everything. And
oh yeah, the music.
That's right.
The atmosphere and the feel and the vibes of the film, it just kind of has it's so 90s. Everything about it. It's a little bit sillier than I remember as a kid, obviously.
Sure. It seemed real dark as a kid, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I can remember thinking this first one was heavy, but now going back and revisiting it, it's not quite as heavy as I remembered. It all feels like there's not quite as much stakes involved, at least that I thought there was when I was a kid. And that's the thing. When you go back and watch some of these older films, you kind of look at it with more objective eyes. There's definitely a lot of flaws here.
You talk about, a little like the more kind of silly. You're thinking it's more serious, like you said, whenever you were younger, and then you watch it and you see there's some silliness. Like even with Casey Jones, his whole story is real serious. Which it is. I mean, it's still got a serious feel, but there's also a very comical feel between him and Raphael. What does he say? 4 or what is it? The way it's got a very comical feel, but wanting to appeal to kids and a younger audience. So, which you see later on, absolutely. I believe the second and third, especially the third one, the Mystery of the Ooze, or what was it called? The Secret of the Ooze. That got a whole lot more goofy and more silly feeling. So I think they tried to appeal to that. But it was more dark than the second and third one for sure. But yeah, like Batman, of course, if you're watching the new ones, there's a lot more dark and sinister. I mean, even gruesome. Oh, yeah. Especially the most recent one, there was some pretty gruesome, really dealing with. Well, I mean, all of them really, the psyche of people. You go back and you see how comical things actually were. At that time, even then, even watching like Mr. Freeze and all that. You think of, you go back and look and it was real silly. The Penguin, even real silly. But at that time, when you're younger, it's like, wow, this is really dark because it's Gotham City. But then you watch the newer ones and you're like, nah, it wasn't dark at all. And so that's kind of how it was when I went back and looked at Turtles. I was like, because it's been a while since I watched it. So probably since I was a young teen. So maybe even younger.
I think it's at least been 15, 20 years for me since I've seen this film. That new Riddler in the Batman film that came out a couple years ago or a year ago, give or take, he was dark, man. Dude. I've talked about that on this show before, but he was literally like a straight up murderer, and
psychopath.
Yeah, and how they connected him, or how he could be almost like, someone that could exist in our world, someone who's on a live stream getting advice on how to murder people. That's pretty dark, man. It's
Dude.
tough to swallow.
Stuff like that actually goes on. That's what's wild. There's some messed up groups out there.
Yeah. Going back to the Turtles, you mentioned Casey Jones. I'll just say this. By today's standards, Casey Jones wouldn't be very politically correct.
Nope. No, he wouldn't. Speaking of the
He
political,
dropped a few lines in the movie where he was calling somebody as an insult Tinkerbell.
that wouldn't go well at all now.
No. And then he said someone accused him of being claustrophobic. And he was like, what are you talking about? I've never even looked at a man.
That's right.
It's funny and interesting seeing these types of references and how things have changed so much from that era to the current era that we live in now, which is only, well, dang, I was about to say 20-something years, but it's 35 years ago.
Yeah, that's wild. I was 4 years old. How old are you? Because
I'm 30. I'll be 35 in July.
Okay, yeah. I thought you were just like a year or two younger than me. So I was 4 years old. To think about that. That's been so long. But yeah, absolutely. You talk about the offensiveness, like even before, like regardless of how you feel, right? It's entertainment, it's comedy. I think people have a lack of self-awareness today, and like I said, easily offended. But people could laugh at themselves before, and I understand, just being cruel and hateful, and but it's a funny thing. He's a tough guy, he's a tough guy, and he's trying to be like, no. I don't see why that's an issue, but you're right. They definitely couldn't have anything like that.
If it was in a modern movie, there would at least be an article about it.
Yeah, that's right.
The Foot Clan's hangout.
Okay, yeah.
As a kid, I can remember thinking that is the coolest place ever. They had arcade video games everywhere. Everybody was smoking a cigarette.
That's right.
Punk rock playing in the background. I know you can relate to that.
Oh, yeah.
I can just remember thinking as a kid, like, that looks like a really cool place. And everybody was skateboarding.
Even thinking about it, like whenever you played in your band, I played in my band, I remember that whole feeling. Like even like as a teenager, even young adult, I guess. I think I was 20 doing a lot of that, being in those groups of all the alternative people and kind of being free. I always thought about Turtles, especially when we'd go on tour when we play some of these punk clubs. And like we played one place that kind of, actually quite a few places that reminded me of that. Skate ramps and no rules, people are, I mean, even though I never was doing drugs and stuff, but like people just getting high right in the corner. Nobody's doing anything. One place we played, they had a fire pit in the middle of the room. And it was like some punk rock venue. And I mean, people are going crazy, throwing stuff. They're having fun and all, but that's kind of what it reminded me of. It made me think about Turtles. I was like, this is the Foot Clan, man. That's what these punk clubs are. It's the Foot Clan.
Yeah, we lived in that era, man. We were, we were on the front lines. And
I don't know. Did you hear that screaming? That was my son, I think.
It's all good. I get it. And unlike me, I only have one kid. You have 6 kids, so it's totally understandable. This was a Jim Henson film, right? He did a lot of different things with the Muppets, and what he put on screen here in this movie was really, really impressive. The animatronic, I think that, it was a suit that the guys would wear along with the animatronic head that they would put on. Astonishing. Even by today's standards, I think that in a lot of ways, this looks more realistic than some of the modern CGI. Especially when you look at the new Turtles that came out 5-6 years ago. This looks really good.
Yeah, I actually was thinking they need to bring this back, personally. Of course, that may just be because I'm an old guy, but I thought it was handled great. And the fact, actual martial artists in the suits. And,
how impressive is that?
That they could do that in those suits. Because, they're bulky, but they were actually doing real martial arts. So, see, my brother did martial arts, and he did Jeet Kune Do, how do you say it? The one that Bruce Lee taught?
Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it, but I'm not an
Yeah.
Well, I guess.
Something like that. But he did that. He did a little bit of a taekwondo and boxing mix as well. But anyways, he would get the films and he would take out certain parts and watch it. He was real big into it, and he would watch what they're doing. He's like, this is legit. These people actually know what they're doing. So even on that, mixing the suits with actual martial arts, I thought that was really, really cool how they did it.
Absolutely. What do you think about Shredder?
I personally like the Shredder.
Yeah.
Some people didn't like him, but I thought they did a good job because I know, in the comic books, he was more of a kind of like a businessman. Everything from the comics and I know you might not talk too much about that, but it was actually pretty spot on. There were just a few little differences.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Overall, I thought they handled it really good. The backstory between him and Master Splinter. I liked his whole sinister
Aura.
with it. Yeah, sinister aura. Yeah, I didn't know what you thought about that, but I really liked how they handled Shredder personally.
Yeah, I'm not much of a reader. I guess I'm a hypocrite. What I truly love is comic book film.
Yeah,
I have recently started reading some books that I have up here on the shelf that I just can't find the time to read them all. But I never read the Turtles as a kid or, at all, really. I didn't know much about the source material. I know the original comic was like black and white.
That's
and like
right,
you said, it was grittier and darker
right.
than the films and the cartoons ended up becoming, and kind of the Turtles that we all know and love now.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I liked Shredder in the film. Thought that he looked menacing. He had a cool outfit, something that kind of sticks with you when you're a kid, the helmet and everything.
I'm with you too, because I wasn't a huge comic book guy, but I did read some. I was more into, the video games, obviously. And I know the video games kind of branched off of that. So to me, I thought the blend between games and comics, I thought they did great, because it had the dark, especially this first one. It was dark, but it also kind of had that comical, cowabunga, radical dude, the pizza, I think when they went into April O'Neil's apartment, like they were wanting to drink beer or something, but I think in the movie it was just pizza, right?
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
You think that was a creative decision they were going to make initially, or they?
Well, no, I think if I'm correct, I do believe that the original story, like the comics, like a lot of the things in there were from the comics.
Yeah.
Casey Jones, Raphael running off, his whole backstory, going to the farm, like all this stuff it just gave a Hollywood twist to it. Yeah. And I think with that little bit of humor and all that is where they, like you said, the Turtles we know today. That's where I think it kind of branched off of that, which I personally prefer, because that's what I remember playing video games and all. So I thought they did a great job.
I totally agree. Like we said, the Turtles kind of evolved from their original comic to what we all know and love now. Yeah. And I think it's for the better. I think that they're more suitable as a family-friendly, goofy quartet, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
In conclusion, I just want to say that, unfortunately, like a lot of movies that you go back and watch, and it's been 15, 20 plus years, didn't quite hold up for me. I have a list in my phone of every single comic book movie listed from the very top all the way to the very bottom. When I look at my list.
Oh, man.
Okay, so here's the problem, right? I gave Batman 89 a 5 out of 10. That's harsh to some, and to some outright crazy.
Yeah.
But when I go up to my 6s, I have films like The Dark Knight Rises, Black Panther, and then I go up to my 7s, I have movies like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the first Thor. So when I rate these films, I'm probably a lot more critical than I should be, but I take everything into account, right? I take in the action sequences and how beautifully they're shot and how fun and entertaining they are. And then I take in the story and the special effects. But when I take this movie and I have to really give it a rating and put it on that list, unfortunately, Keith, it only made a 4.5.
Oh, man. Well, you're also comparing it with what we have now.
Yeah.
So you're talking about cinematography and everything. Yeah, I would say I would think more so it's more of a nostalgia. I'm sure it beats the Mario movie though.
The original? I mean, the 1990s movie?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So are you going to watch the new Turtles?
Yeah, I probably will. I like some cartoons that are like that are more like stylized and kind of not too kiddie. Even though I still watch the Amazing Spider-Man and His Friends with my little girl. It's aimed at a very young audience, like three and below.
Spidey and Friends or whatever?
Yeah, Spidey and His Amazing Friends.
I can watch it too. So Spidey and His Amazing Friends. Yep.
Yeah, I'm excited. I really enjoyed the Spider-Man Into the Multiverse. I think that's
yeah,
Into the Spider-Verse.
Morales.
Yeah, that's a really good film. I think that it reminds me a lot of that same style, the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles trailer that we just recently got. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited to see it. It looks fun. If you had to give this movie a rating, what would you give it?
Oh man, okay, now you're catching me. Okay, I have it a little higher than yours, but I'm probably not as much of a guru on the movies as you are. So if I was to deal with cinematography, I would be right there with you. But if I was just to deal with a classic of its time for the whole series of comic book movies and everything, I would have to put it pretty high up there. If I was rating it based on that, I'd probably say, I know it's opposite of what you said, but like an 8 or 9. So
that's good. Hey, that's great. That's
that
what
would
makes
be,
the world go around, man. Like films are subjective.
Right,
I might watch a film just because I watch a film and I think it's perfect doesn't mean that my wife is gonna love it. And like you said, there's a lot of nostalgia here. And it honestly, Keith, it hurt me to give this film that rating because I grew up watching this movie on repeat. Look, if I was rating this film when I was a kid, it would have been a 10.
Yeah, that's right, 10 plus.
But at the end of the day, if I have to be as subjective and objective as possible, then I got to put it in the 4.5 range. But hey,
well, I'll agree with you on that. I'll agree with you on that. So.
Thanks for joining me today, man. I appreciate you stopping by. Guys, make sure you check Keith out on YouTube. You can find him at the Pickin Preacher. Aren't you also on Instagram as well?
Yeah, and it's the Pickin Preacher. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Reselling, picking. I'm mostly video games and toys. I got a little bit, I'm building a collection, so I talk about collecting as well. So,
folks, make sure you check us out on TikTok, Instagram at Real Comic Book Cinema. We're on Facebook, on Patreon, and also in the podcasting realm as well. Until next time, have a great day.